Well, hello. I have some questions about recent Trump activity concerning Afghanistan. Now, why are we all of a sudden talking about Afghanistan? Like, when was the last time that was in the news? Well, it seems that we've had this continuing war there for many years because of the cultivation of drug poppies, opium, um, cute little addictive drugs, maybe a tiny little grain popped into this prescription or that, in order to get our whole population addicted to, fentanyls and other things. It appears that pharma has a huge interest in us controlling many of the drug crops in those areas. So, are we getting out ISIL that supposedly Obama created and al-Nusra that supposedly Hillary ran? Or are we focusing on getting rid of competition? I mean, doesn't the whole drugs in Afghanistan thing smell like your old neighborhood where, when you wanted to get rid of your competition because sales are starting to drop off, you just kind of called up and snitched on your competitor? Because that's what these operations are sounding like. But this Afghanistan one sounds way more sinister than you could possibly imagine, than any of all of that, of every snitch in the world put together into one basket. Why? Because the area of those tunnels in the mountainous regions of Afghanistan happen to be where lots of other activity has been occurring since 80s. Namely, recent discovery, a few years back, of a Verbana, or flying craft, that was supposedly conjured up, we should say, or developed by a people that was half human and half demon. Yes, just like the days of Noah. And when it was discovered in this little kind of like natural cave, just barely big enough for the one person craft, 8 soldiers attempted to get it out and were instantly vaporized by trying to break through some kind of a force field that protected it. And instantly all the leaders of the world ran to go see it. Yes, including the U.S. leader, which was Obama at the time. So he goes to see this craft, and a couple other leaders of the world go scooping over there to see it, and everybody's amazed by it. And where was that in relation to this recent bomb? And why was such a huge, the mother bomb, the biggest bomb that anyone has ever set in a preemptive strike? Another word for active war aggression, unauthorized by Congress, i.e., war crime. This was not a military operation to take out a certain ISIL person because they didn't do what they promised after Obama sent them new Toyota trucks and weapons and cool little tanks and other toys and turned a basically simple desert people into a massive psychotic army influenced by who knows what. Drugs, psyops. I mean, these were the chickens or rabbits or rats or whatever you want to call them of the CIA. So then you have another very, very, very giant evil piece of the puzzle falling into play. And these tunnels were actually originally constructed back in the days of Jesus by, assumedly, early Christians, and were quite developed as they were lived in for a very long period of time. And the CIA supposedly paid huge amounts of money to investigate these, see what they could discover in them, Who knows what kind of artifacts or things about that period of time we might have learned about them. And then they went further and developed and built even more tunnels, probably repairing, 2,000-year-old ones and connecting areas that were not originally intended to be connected, or through which passage was intentionally made difficult to slow down predators or pursuing armies. And they were lengthened, enlarged, connected, and special little giant rooms manufactured out of these rooms of pure stone to contain a giant CIA headquarters. So what I'd like to know, and I'm sure many other responsible American citizens or world citizens would like to know, is who was in those tunnels at the time it was bombed? Because if it was a giant CIA operation, fully manned, with all kinds of, communication centers, evidence, computers, written records, aliases and identities of spies or Afghanians who were not known to be spying for the CIA. We don't have very many very good agents left, thanks to the Clinton email leaks to the King of Saudi, which exposed many, many agents around that area of the world. And apparently it was so horrific when that information was given to the Saudi king, that agents were being captured, chased, and tortured. We saw the film from Benghazi. So you have all these agents that are being chased, tortured, and killed, and it was so horrific that word spread violently throughout the whole region, and many agents tried to flee, tried to run. All the names were out in the open. And we still don't have an investigation on this. So, all these agents are gone. Now you have this huge, massive command center deep in the tunnels and rock rooms of the mountains in Afghanistan. And guess what? We take the biggest non-nuclear bomb that exists, 15 times greater than all of the missiles which were launched in the recent Syria strike. 15 times by weight greater than all those missiles, which of course makes an exponentially larger kaboom, destroying everything within 1.5 something kilometers, or basically 15 times the size of a football field. So why would they want such a huge explosion that not only would collapse some tunnels, but destroy this giant, huge command center of the CIA? Like, are we done in the region? We're not going to go back in anymore? And why does the CIA reports say that 39 ISIS, which doesn't exist, it's still ISIL, it's still the grandbaby of Al-Qaeda, it's still Obama's wicked, Dr. Frankenstein creation that backfired, unless, of course, your original intention was just to depopulation agenda anyway, Why? How do we know that 39 people died in that blast? Unless we know who was stationed inside this giant command center, or lived at the door to guard secret openings or those kind of things. And who were they? Can we see the list and the photos? Maybe an agent or two that was kind of messy and needed a new identity and a fresh start. Maybe they said that those couple guys died, and they really didn't. They're going to come back to life in another operation in another country. Nobody's looking for them because they're under this massive pile of rock, which never should have been used for, these other operations. Never should have been dug into and mangled with wires and radars and discs and, cute little SATCOM networks and computers and things. How did they operate it? Where were the self-providing generators and, solar cells and things that ran it? An even bigger question is, why were they there? And, oh my gosh, we'll call him Obama bin Laden, discovered these tunnels and ran in and out of them and up and down the tunnels with his men and were never captured and always seemed to be one step ahead of the people looking for him, if they really were looking for him. And you just have the act passed that now enables any of the victims' families to sue the government, except you get some ex-CIA boys put the leader of these families on the news and get her interviewed to say, oh yes, I voluntarily signed a document that says you take this little bit of money to get your kid through school this year, and you can forever and ever and ever lose your right to ever sue the U.S. government or any such persons that might have been involved in this act. And they get them to look the other way when they're frustrated, stressed out, in terrible remorse and guilt and mourning for their loved ones and confusion of how to take care of the children and stuff like that. And they take the money and they sign the thing. And now they're on the news saying, oh yeah, we signed this little thing. But it's okay because we know the real bad guy at the bottom is actually the Saudi family. But why was he running around through these tunnels that the CIA had a giant operation and lived in? Command center, a full command center. So what evidence and people were destroyed in that blast to keep them, computer, paper, and people, from telling us, the world, what really happened back on 9/11. Thanks so much, and be sure to see our other videos or write me at buffalostudy@yahoo.com. Thank you so much.